I did make a brief graph on one of the areas, but it was a hand deal. But you know, looking at a bunch of the different data points, it looks like there really is some sort of an inverse relationship between hunter success and harvest, or tags issued and harvest success. You know, the more tags you give in a lot of these areas, immediately the harvest percent goes down. And that seems to be fairly universal, at least across the several of these areas. I mean, it takes forever to come up with it. But when you're sitting there looking at it, you're going, what? How can a healthy population, how can that exist in a healthy population? And I thought we'd ask for those graphs, and they didn't show up along with, any of this information. And we'd asked for a lot of it, but that clearly didn't show up. I was hoping it'd show up in a graphical format here.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I address some of these graphs that Vice Chairman Lamp provided?
Sure.
I'm really glad that he provided these. I think they're a great example of a couple things that we've talked about historically. We've talked about how the state has made its population estimates, the quota setting process, through the evolution of it. And I think Area 4 in particular, not because it's an increasing trend, but because it demonstrates the pattern. But if you look at the red lines, and you look at the amount of variation in those red lines, what you'll see is a tremendous amount of ups and downs throughout the 80s into the early 90s. Then, in the early 90s, when we went from a change in ratio model, which varied wildly, for example, the statewide mule deer population estimate in 1988 was 241,000. The following year, it dropped 27%. That wasn't a real loss. That was based on the method that we were using, which was a change in ratio. It dropped wildly. It varied wildly. So all these, if you flip through and you look at the amount of variation on that red line in the early years, from the early 80s to the early 90s, you'll see all that variation reflected. Early 90s, 91, 92, 93, people started to get computers. We started to phase into a POP2 model. That POP2 model, as we've discussed, had its limitations. And what we did is we carried the change in ratio model estimate that used a 40% wounding loss into a POP2 model, and we cut our wounding loss assumptions to 20% based on some science. Well, we had this artificially inflated population, partly due to the change in ratio, partly due to a 40% wounding loss assumption. We bounced around with that for about 10 years. You can see those populations correct themselves on all these graphs, and then we went into a spreadsheet model. That reflects almost every single one of these models over the last 10 years shows some stability. It isn't going all over the place. That's a reflection of an improvement in our methodology and incorporation of the most sound science in the West. One thing I'd like to point out, I don't know where these numbers came from. It says Endow Hunt Books, but if we look at that Area 10 population estimate, the very last graph, it's showing a population estimate for Area 10 in 1988 of almost 70,000 deer. I know for a fact that's almost double what the population estimate was. And if we look at the last 10 years, it's showing 30,000. We're estimated at 24, 25 right now, and we haven't been over that for that 10-year period. So there's something wrong with these numbers in here as well. I know Area 12, some problems with those numbers as well.
That's out of your hunt book.
Don't believe so. We've got hunt books right here.
And then, what we're using now, what you're using now is just a linear spreadsheet based population projection model, just a glorified. That's what you're doing, you know. And
It's not a linear.
well, that's what it looks like. But anyway.
Let's go ahead and give the floor. What were you saying?
No, I'm done.
Okay. You're done. Okay. Well, I know I was looking at the data for the year one.
When you get a chance.
All right. I know I was looking at the data for the overall trends, and that seems highly accurate. I don't know why we haven't. Huh?
No, I'm just.
Okay. I know. I'm just surprised we haven't seen these type of things in a graphical format before, because they do show some interesting trends. The one I was looking at looks about accurate, but you know, there's a lot of stuff. I didn't have a chance to go over it that deeply. Anyways, go ahead. We had Commissioner Cavan had a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to make sure that everybody heard that because we have a high buck population, that is why we're in the department has an increase in quota. It doesn't, we can't just look at the overall population. I just want to make sure that we heard that comment from the department, because it didn't sound like we heard it. Thank you.
All right. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion.
All right. We got. I think Mr. Howell had said he wanted to make something on the juniors first, right? Is that all right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'd like to include the depredation hunt also.
Okay.
I move that we approve the resident junior hunt 1107 and the depredation hunt 1101 as proposed by the department.
Okay.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded to approve hunt 1107 and 1101 as proposed by the department. Does everybody understand that motion? All in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Commissioner Vogler?
I'm probably going to have a little bit of a disagreement here on 1331 all the way, all the rest of the hunt.
Okay.
First of all, antlered any legal weapon 1331 resident. We have been told time and time again that we're not scientists and we don't have the science. But I'm not sure we're giving the scientists all the tools that they need, whether it be a two-legged predator or a four-legged predator. So therefore, I make a motion that we, in 101 through 108 early, 101 through 108 mid-level or middle hunt, and 101 through 108, which is where they're going to do the comprehensive deer study, we issue 0 tags. And for the rest of the state, we reduce all the hunts by 50%.
Hold on.
Second.
Hold on. Second it. Okay. Hold on.
Second?
Yeah, it's been seconded. Let me try to restate that. Let me see. You said that on hunt.
Hang on.
Okay. Second was Commissioner Shrum. Did you just state that in hunt 1331, all 3 of those hunts for area 101 through 108, quota 0, and hunt 1371 and all the rest of them that we haven't already gone on deer, 50% of what's here?
Yes, sir.
We need a break. We need a break.
I got,
10 minutes.
we got some areas
Let's
that are
take 10.
don't produce it.
Get that on video?
We don't need to reduce